In this video, I'll be showing you guys how to use impedances and phasor coordinates to solve for the currents right here throughout this entire circuit. So keep in mind, the circuit is alternating current, so it's AC. The voltages and currents are represented by a sinusoidal function or a cosine function. So first off, what can we do? Well, we can actually use KVL along all of these guys. Yes, KVL still applies when your circuits or elements are in parallel. So even when the inductor and resistor are in parallel, or capacitor and inductor are in parallel, KVL will still apply, okay? It's called a law for a reason. So this right here is the voltage of the voltage source. If I were to do KVL around all of these loops, you're going to realize that all the voltages are the same along all these circuits. So let's go ahead and find this in polar form because that's easier to write. So all we need to do to write the polar form of this voltage is by simply extracting the amplitude and treating it as the magnitude of your polar coordinate and the phase shift, which is 0 degrees in this case. So the degree of your polar coordinate is 0. So this right here is equal to the voltage of all of these guys. Alright, next thing, we can actually use Ohm's law for all of these guys. Well, how do you do that, right? I thought for inductors and capacitors, you use some derivative, right? So for inductors, an example would be voltage. Alright, the voltage at the inductor, time-dependent function, is equal to the inductance times the derivative with respect to time of your current at the inductor. Well, you can actually use Ohm's law instead of using this guy. So let's go ahead and simplify this to just sheer algebra. So if I were to use, let's write the Ohm's law up here. So if I were to use Ohm's law, how do you do that? Well, Ohm's law is voltage divided by resistance is equal to current, right? And we're trying to solve for all the currents at all of these guys. Let's go ahead and use Ohm's law for first this resistor because that's going to be the easiest. So 50 cosine of 2000 t volts over the resistance. So for this regular resistor, we don't have to use impedance. It doesn't have any complex numbers, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and just simplify this, and you basically just get 50 divided by 10, right? This is 5 cosine of 2000 t amps. So this right here is the current of your resistor. But how about the current at this inductor? Well, you could have used the integral to solve this. But why would we do that when we can just use plain old algebra? So remember, Ohm's law is voltage divided by resistance, correct? Well, we have the voltage in polar form. But what is the impedance now? So the impedance is in the unit of ohms, correct? Well, since the impedance is the units of ohms, isn't that some measurement of resistance? That means we can find the impedance of this inductor and treat it as the resistance of the inductor, so that we can divide voltage by resistance to get current at this inductor. Let's go ahead and find the impedance at it. So how do you find the impedance of an inductor? It's simply J, let's use yellow instead, J angular frequency times inductance, right? J is the imaginary number, omega is the angular frequency, L is the inductance. So the inductance is 10 millihenries, which is 0.01. What's the angular frequency? It's 2000. Right, 2000 is the coefficient in front of the t for our voltage and for our currents. So that is the angular frequency times J. 0.01. So this right here is equal to J20. How do you turn this into polar form? Well, if you look at the complex plane, right, where the vertical axis is J and the horizontal axis are real numbers, you're going to realize that this complex number right here doesn't have any real part, right? A complex number looks like this, a plus jb, but there's only a b part here. There's no a. There's no real number added onto this number. Therefore, if we were to plot this onto the complex plane, and if you don't know how to do that, I have a video on that. Link will be down below. But j right here is going to have this coordinate, right, along the horizontal axis. It has no coordinate. It has 0 as a 0 coordinate or 0 value along the horizontal axis because there's no real number in this complex number here. So if I were to plot this like this, then the polar coordinate would be 20, since that's the magnitude of J, which is, and 90 degrees. Because this dot right here, this point, forms a 90-degree angle with the x-axis, right, or the horizontal axis. So the polar coordinate for this guy in impedance is 20, 90 ohms. So now we have voltage divided by resistance. 2.5, right? Because when you're dividing polar coordinates, you simply divide their amplitudes. 50 or magnitude, sorry. 50 divided by 20 is 2.5, and when you're dividing polar coordinates, again, you just simply subtract their angles. So 0 minus 90 is negative 90. And this is in amps right here. Well, how do you turn this back into your time domain form as some sinusoidal function? Well, the magnitude of your polar coordinate, 2.5, is simply the amplitude. And we keep the same cosine function since there was a cosine function from the beginning. Same angular frequency. And the phase shift is simply the angle of your polar coordinate, which is negative 90. So this right here is the function of your current for your inductor. All right, one last thing. We need to find the current at the capacitor. Well, for capacitance, for impedance, for the capacitors, this is the formula. So we have negative J over angular frequency, 2000, times capacitance, which is 50 microfarads, which is 0.00004 farads. This is what it would look like. And if we were to plug this all into a calculator, you would just get negative J10 ohms, of course. Negative J10 ohms as a polar coordinate, so the voltage is still the same, right? The voltage at this capacitor is still the same, over the impedance, which is the resistance, which is this guy right here. We want to put this in polar coordinates so that we can divide the polar coordinates. So negative 10, sorry, not negative 10, what am I saying? This right here, if we were to plot this on the complex plane, you get something that look like this. All right, 10, negative 90 ohms. So we can actually move this 10, negative 90. And now we can divide. 50 divided by 10 is 5, and 0 minus negative 90 is simply positive 90. So if I were to put this in time domain form, then we would get 5 cosine of 2000 t plus 90 amps for the current at the capacitor. So all we really did in this problem is use Ohm's law, right? We have all their voltages, and all we did was simply divide it by their resistances or impedances, right? We just found the impedances of every single element and divided it by the voltage in polar form. So the only difference between this and regular circuit analysis with just resistors that you guys have been used to is simply just a little more math. It's really all. Okay, you just need to learn how to divide with polar coordinates and turn between the time domain and polar form. And once you're comfortable with that, of course, this will be extremely easy. To just be what you guys have been doing during the entire semester, if you've been paying attention in class. But let's move on to the next problem. Let's go ahead and solve this guy, but this time we're only given a current source. So first things first, what can we do? Well, when you're solving parallel resistors, you want to combine the two resistors, right? In this case, they're inductors and capacitors, but you want to combine them and you want to find their voltages, right? So let's go ahead and combine these resistors so we can actually find a voltage. And you'll see what I mean by that if you're confused as I go on through this problem. So first off first. What? Whoever said that? J omega L, right? This is the impedance for your inductor, is equal to J angular frequency, which is 1000 in this case, times your inductance, which is 0.02 henries. If I were to multiply, let's see, 0.02 times 1000, this is equal to J20. All right, let's find the impedance for your capacitor. It's 100 micro. This is the Oops, let's write the formula first. Negative J over 1,000 for the angular frequency times capacitance, which is microfarads. So this right here is equal to, I think negative J10. Let's see this. 0.00. Oh, it is. Negative J10. Now, here's the thing that you need to watch out for. Okay, once you have solved for the impedances of both these guys in parallel, keep this in mind, that these are in parallel, not in series. You cannot add them together. You cannot simply just add these two together and get a total impedance, right? You need to use your resistors in parallel formulas in order to add them together. Well, a really simple one that you should use, especially for impedances, is this guy right here, right? Instead of using is equal to REQ, instead of using 1 over R plus R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3, blah, 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 right? This is equal to 1 over REQ. This is a little too much math for polar coordinates. But you have this derived formula right here that you can use to solve for the equivalent resistance when you just have two resistors. So how does this correlate to this? Well, we have two resistors in parallel, right? And this formula right here gives us the equivalent resistance for two resistors in parallel. So if we just do the math using this guy, we'll be fine. We'll be able to find the equivalent resistance. So R of 1 times R of 2. Well, first off, let's write these in polar coordinates. This right here is 20, 90. And this right here is 10, negative 90. All right, so we have R1 plus R2. Well, we can simply just add these two guys together. If we add J20 and negative J10, we get J10. All right, and we want to turn this into polar coordinates. So J10 in polar coordinates is simply 10, 90. But how about multiplying these two resistors? Well, we need to multiply these two guys in polar coordinates, right? It's easier to multiply in polar coordinates. It's easier to add and subtract in rectangular coordinates. These are rectangular. These are polar. Both of them have their shortcuts. But if we multiply these two together, we just get simply 20 times 10, right? We multiply the magnitudes of the polar coordinates. 20 times 10 is equal to 200. And when you multiply, you just simply add their angles. So 90 plus negative 90 is just simply equal to 0. All right, now we can divide them, right? So 20 divided by 10 is equal to 20, and 0 minus 90 is equal to negative 90. So this right here is the equivalent resistance for these two circuits in parallel. Okay, once we redraw this guy, you can kind of draw, I guess I'll be a little lazy and then draw it as a resistor because it has a resistance, but technically this is not a resistor. Negative 90 ohms. Okay. So now we have the impedance for these two combined circuits now, which is treated as a resistor, right? Turns out that this is simply a series circuit, is this not? Right? All these components, all these elements are attached end to end. This is a series circuit. So since this is a series circuit, we know that the current that's created by this current source is the same as the current going through this resistor. So let's go ahead and turn this current into polar form. This right here is 20 degrees, right? And all we need to do is multiply the current times the resistance, right? This is plain old simple Ohm's law. If we multiply current times resistance, we get voltage. So if we find the voltage as a resistor, we'll be able to find the voltages at the other parallel circuit. Let's go ahead and solve this. I of R is equal to 20, let's use different colors, 20 0-degree amps times your impedance, 20 negative 90 degrees ohms. Well, if you put these two together, you should get a voltage, right? So 20 times 20 is equal to 400, and 0 plus negative 90 is simply negative 90. So this right here is the voltage at this resistor. So 400 negative 90 degrees volts. Well, if this is the voltage at this resistor, remember what I said, then that means the voltages at these elements are also 400 negative 90 volts. Let's put an arrow to indicate this. So both of these are 400 negative 90 volts. Well, what we can do now is just use plain old Ohm's law again. Just like the last problem, we used Ohm's law by dividing voltage by the resistance to get current, right? So we can find the individual currents of all of these elements. But we don't have any resistances, or do we? The resistances are the impedances at these individual elements, or these inductors and capacitors. So all we need to do is use plain old simple Ohm's law. So if we use Ohm's law, right, we should get voltage divided by resistance is equal to current, right? Well, the voltage is 400 negative 90 degrees volts, and the resistance at this inductor would be 2090, right? That's our calculated impedance for this inductor. If we divide 400 by 20, we get 20. Negative 90 minus 90 is simply negative 180 degrees. Now if I wanted to make this look nicer, this would be the same as positive 180. Originally, it was negative 180, but remember, if you just simply add 360 onto any angle, it's the same angle technically. So we just added 360 onto negative 180 to get positive 180. All right, once we have this right here is the actual current at this inductor, right? Voltage divided by resistance at this inductor is equal to current. So this is the current in the polar form, but if we want to turn this into time domain, we simply get 20 sine of 1000 t plus 180 degrees amps. All right, last thing, let's use Ohm's law for the last guy, which is this capacitor. So the voltages are the same, 400 negative 90 degrees over the impedance. Well, the impedance we calculated for the capacitor was 10 negative 90 here. So 10 negative 90 degrees. And we get 400 divided by 10, which is equal to 40. And negative 90 minus negative 90 is simply 0. So this right here is the current in polar form of the capacitor, which is actually equal to 40 sine of 1000 t plus 0 phase shift. So it's simply just amps. So this is I of C, this is I of L. But that's all for this video. If you don't know how to add these impedances in series, I'll put a link down in the description for you guys. Hopefully by now you know how to do that. But really, the core concept of this is quite literally the same thing as using resistors, except just a little bit more math, as I've said. Right? You still use Ohm's law. You don't even have to use derivatives if you don't want to. If you want to, of course, if you're more familiar with that, go ahead and use that. But I don't know who would rather use derivatives than algebra. But as always, if you have any questions, put it on in the comment section. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing and liking the video. Thanks for watching.